Hey there, welcome to the channel. So we'll take a look at things today. All right. Yeah, kind of ended up with a sell-off today, down 2% on the SPY. Qs did down 3%. So you can see that we kind of, we had this little rally last week and, it's just failing. It seems to be failing right now. So this is pretty typical, it seems, for bear market. Our rates went up a little bit. Our dollar is going up a little bit. So that's kind of where we're at. One other thing, just look at our Bitcoin kind of stabilized right now. It's really interesting because it's kind of, it come down and stabilized. Now this is a grayscale, but it seems to track it, just day-to-day moves kind of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of interesting how it's consolidating here at this level. It hasn't cracked open yet and broken down to 10K. So that's interesting, but I just have a feeling that it's due at some point. Another interesting, Voyager Digital, man, down 25% today. Really? 25% today? Wow. So I guess people are really not holding out much hope for Voyager Digital. I mean, yes, it's now a penny stock and everything. So, can be volatile, but yeah, I think the market's suspecting that they're done, which means Three Arrows Capital is done, which means that the whole chain may be cracking there in the crypto space finally. Today, I want to cover Tesla today. So Tesla down like 5% today. But what I want to cover is Tesla lays off workers at its autopilot team as electro EV maker. It's shuttered a California facility. Okay, so what's happening? What they're saying here is the employees were notified Tuesday, according to People, teams at so it looks like they closed down their San Mateo office, which is they were tasked with evaluating customer vehicle data related to autopilot, driver assistance features, and performing so-called data labeling. About 200 were let go. That's kind of interesting there. And then they talk a little further that, they were talking about how they were going to lay off 10%. He had made that announcement. They were going to lay off 10% of the employees. So this looks to be the start of that possible. And then it's interesting down here, he talks about in job posting, Tesla said, labeled data is critical to integration for training powerful deep neural networks. And so this would be for their full self-driving. That is my understanding. I'm an electrical engineer, but I'm not a, kind of a neural network guy. But I did take, Professor Ying's class on Coursera. And so, I mean, I've done a little bit with it. So basically, I've done some stuff basically where you train neural networks and stuff like that. I took like a 10-week class or whatever. So I did the whole thing, we basically, and I, did the part where the way we were doing it is we were coding up our networks using MATLAB by hand, right? So we weren't using assist from like we weren't using TensorFlow and things like that. So it was good because it was like, and it's hard because you just like, okay, if you're gonna train a network, you have to write the code to do the forward, terminate to determine the error, and then back propagate the error to adjust all your coefficients and stuff. And so you kind of learn, okay, this is how it works. And you can see when you learn how to do that, how you take a data set and basically if you there's all these public sets out there of data, and you can train neural networks to or convolutional networks, neural networks, any type of network. There's many different types, to try to come up with something that will predict. And in the end of the day, what's happening there is, you might have a network and it might be picking out and saying, well, I want to know if there's a bird, a car, or this or that in the picture, right? And so basically what you do is you show that network lots and lots of examples. So it would be called it's directed or supervised learning is one of the techniques. And so what you do is you have, you show it 100,000 pictures of birds and various things. And eventually it will learn that like, okay, this is a bird, and it'll learn it only within a certain probability. There'll always be some error there, but it can learn that. And then depending on what you're doing, you would do convolutional networks, et cetera, because the issue is, well, is the whole picture a bird, or is it just like a bird on a branch, like in the corner? So, there's all this stuff to it. So now going to, what does Tesla have to do? They're sitting there and they have all these cars, and these cars are, feeding the data in. So all those sensors and all that stuff are going into there. And I assume, some of the most important, I assume they look at everything, but obviously anytime there was an accident, or anytime, like, autopilot gets interrupted by the human slamming on the brakes, these would be, things of interest to look at. And so there, that would be kind of what's happening. It's like, okay, so what happened? Why did the autopilot was on? Autopilot didn't respond. The consumer interacted. So what was going on with the sensors? Did the sensors pick something up, and the AI didn't pick up that there was some object there? There was a bike there. There was another car. The car was stopped, or the turn wasn't going right, et cetera, et cetera. And, so conceptually you can figure out that, what do these neural networks need to have is, a mass amount of information, so you probably have, 100,000, images of every variation of cone that there can be, so it can understand what a cone is. And so, the first part of the AI might be that, hey, you recognize, okay, there's a cone over there, there's a cone over there, that's a sidewalk, that's this. And then from there, that information is going to the next part of the AI is like, okay, I need to keep in between this. I need to not hit the car. I need to not hit the bike. I need to stay, not run over the cone and all that stuff. So you can imagine how that is. But so now I wonder what's happening. I guess, so there's two things. Like, one thing is you could see at some point that, Tesla may do. And so this is full speculation. I don't work for them, and I don't work in this field specifically. So it's just speculation. And I'm just going to take a moment to speculate on it. So could be a couple things. One is, maybe they have more people than they need, okay, we don't need that many people. Second thing is it can make automation, at some point when you're doing those networks, what you do is you take and let's say, you have a big network, and like, gee, I think I need 100,000 samples of birds to train my network to recognize birds with a decent enough accuracy. And then, what do? Well, I only have 10,000 birds. So where am I going to get 90,000 more pictures? Well, you go out, take a bunch of pictures, or you go and synthetically create them. So, this whole concept as I said, what makes a bird, and you get into that kind of thing, and then the convolutional neural network. So, I imagine that in the scope of what they're doing, one of the aspects could be they very well could have automated a lot of this, as they get more and more experience, essentially they can train the neural networks to generate the sample data for the neural networks, right? So you have a network training another network, et cetera. And at some point, maybe you don't need all those people anymore. Now, the next aspect of it that, once again, speculating on, that's kind of interesting is that what you think about is this is not that dynamic. I mean, driving a car is very difficult and challenging AI thing. But however, it doesn't change. Conceptually, I learned to drive a car 40 something years ago. And conceptually, driving a car hasn't changed that much at all. The only thing that's changed is we go a heck of a lot faster, but most of the stuff is still the same. So once I've learned to do that, yeah, there's a little bit of, tweaking of things. There's maybe some new road signs. There's maybe, the right turn on red. Yeah, there's some new stuff that pops up and things like that. But generally, most of what I learned is, I've learned from the mistakes I've made, and most of it, it hasn't changed. So therefore, at some point, if Tesla builds up the AI, all the learning data, all the label data, it's at some point it's got this massive database of data, and the question will be, does it need any more? And so maybe that's one of the things that's going on. A third thing is they may be just cutting back on it because, look, we need to save some money. So it may be an easy place to save some money, and this could be a situation where they go and say, well, look, we cut all the data labelers. And so now, they hand it over to a team of 10, software people to okay, now you guys create the replacement or something. They could do stuff like that. And that unfortunately happens a lot too, because the companies have to, I think that conceptually, this is what happens when you're working at a tech company and they sense a recession is coming and they feel they need to cut back. They're going to watch the burn rate, and they're going to watch it before it happens. They're going to be really keeping their eye on it. And so what they have to do is prioritize, and they have to say, well, look, I can cut here, I can live without this, cut here. And that's what they do. And it hurts them. I mean, it does hurt them, but in the end, it's just the price they pay for, because they just have to, they feel they have to do things like that. Yeah. So that's some of my speculation on the whole Tesla situation. So you tell me what you think. Last thing I want to look at is consumer confidence. Consumer confidence here is kind of struggling from the conference board here. Yeah, look at that thing. So we have the expectations are dropping as well. They're dropping pretty fast. It seems to be at a decade low about. And then the present situation. And, this is really interesting, the present situation. The way this kind of worked out, present situation, when they shut down for Cerveza, it just dropped through the floor. It just went to crap, and it was just very, very bad, but then it just quickly, as they printed all the money, it quickly just shot back up. But now it's fading, and it's fading rather rapidly here. So the expectations are fading rapidly. Present situation is, kind of hanging in there. But I think it is worth noting that this whole situation is, we never got back to the pre-pandemic highs. So we never got back there. So we're on a road now. We're on a trend down in consumer expectations. So that's going to be an issue going forward. Well, I think that's it for this one. Talk to you all later. Bye.